Welcome to Websites for Beginners. This is JP and we're looking at the post slider widget from the Element Pack Pro by BD Themes, and this is for both Elementor Pro and the free version. Let's have a look at how this post slider works, and just to give you an idea, I'm using the routine theme, and this is a theme that comes for free when you buy the Element Pack Pro add-on from BD Themes, and you can try it out. As you can see, especially built for Elementor by BD Themes. So for these tutorials, I'm just using this, test it out along the way as we go. In my post section, I have a number of posts, so let's go have a look there just to show you the posts that we have here, all about dogs, typical family dogs, and I've got in total 10 posts here. And now let's jump on over into Elementor to go and see how that works. So here we are in our Elementor, and we're going to search for post slider. Yes, shaken not stirred. And immediately it brings in our posts from our dogs. So first few things that you have to note. The first thing is it's only going to drag in the last 4, or if you change it, but it's only going to display 4. It's not going to be able to display more than 4. This is purely a slider, so you have to think in terms of a typical slider, and usually we don't add more than 4 slides to a slider. So there is no less than 4 and no more than 4. It is exactly 4 posts that can be displayed within this widget. The second thing you will notice is this gray bar on the left, and then also the one on the right, and that is all based on the image size that you are using for your featured image. So if you want this image to fill out the entire section, you will have to bring in a big size image. If you want it to fill out the entire page, let's go and make this full width, you'll have to bring it in around, I would say 128 pixels higher to 1920. If we go back to my post and I look here at my bulldog and we scroll down to the featured image, you will see it's only at 1000 at 715. And that is why we have this gray area surrounding it. I'm going to take it back to boxed. And to play around with this, I'm going to add another column, or you can just go and play here with the content width on this side, with the slider here in your section setting until you get a desired width that will cut out those boxes. We will look at another way very shortly soon. So how does this post slider work? It's a very nice slider. I like it. I really, really like it. And I think if you want to have, like on the front page display, just the latest news, having 4 is more than enough. You can add a click more button somewhere, and then people can go to your archive page. But I like this. This is good enough for me. This one, if you click on it, it's fading very nicely between these posts on this dog or dogs, family dogs. What you see up here are the tags, not categories. Categories are used for the queries. So if you go to the query function here and you want to bring in specific categories, that is where you will be using the category function. But for display purposes, you will notice there are no categories that you can display, only the tags. Then you have the normal activate, deactivate of your title, your tags, excerpt. And the excerpt is one of those things that I judge widgets very harshly on, because they work or they don't work. And if they don't work, I really dislike them. And in this case, they work well. So of course you have the activate or the deactivate. Now no excerpt. Let's activate it again. But then if you want to play around with the length, you want to shorten it to like 15 characters, you can do that. You can increase it to 50. You can do that. Let's put it back at 35. And then the next part of this slider that you also have to consider at all stages is the read more button. Look what happens when I activate the read more button. It will add the read more over here. Why this is important? Because your container is not going to expand as you add more features. In fact, they are going to get squashed together, and you will have to play nicely with your settings. So if I go back to my edit section and I increase or I decrease the content width and I squash it like this, you will see it moves below the line. Things get squashed. So really make sure that you understand the spacing of this. it will look good. So for example, if we go and preview it on the front end, you don't have to worry about responsiveness. Currently, we are now in desktop view. Here we are in the mobile view, so you will have your thumbnails appear here at the bottom. And if we increase it, you're going to switch over to tablet view. So they're going to look nice on all of that. So you don't have to worry about the spacing here when you are thinking in terms of responsiveness, but make sure you get the spacing right the first time on your desktop view. Let's have a gander into what else is going on here. One of the features I also like is that you can actually set the aspect ratio of this slider. If I want to give it a square aspect ratio, I'm going to give it 1:1. You will notice here on the left, and then I'm going to say apply. And now it will apply this entire thing into a square. Once you've done that, you'll have to go again and play around with the settings to make sure that everything fits in nicely. So I'm going to reduce this, and there we get to our 1:1. Nice square, very good layout. You'll have to look though at your styling here at the bottom, but it works very well. So I like that. That's 1:1. You can also play around with your container width, and the container width is everything in here. But already I think it's at its limit. If you want to make it smaller, that's going to be very tricky unless you go ahead and you remove this pagination thumb. If I remove that one at the bottom, now I can probably squash it in a little bit more like this. It will give me that kind of effect. I can align it to the center, align it to the right, to the place I want it to be. I'm going to keep it at full width. Let's add the pagination thumb back in so we can have a good idea of what's going on. This is the layout, and there are 3 skins. So you have your default, then you have the vast and the hazel. Let me quickly show you vast. Vast will give you almost this typical layout, but remember, this is a slider, so it works like this, right? And that's where you're going to be playing around with the slider options. With hazel is one of my favorite features of this one. Now, I would say the 1:1 is not working here. Let's just see if I can delete this, and what happens then if I delete it. Will it go back to default? Let's go to our section. And yes, so I really like this one called Hazel, and it's a very nice compact view. You can go into the styling option and change all the colors over here, and it will give you this kind of effect. While we're in this kind of effect mode, let's go to styling. And is it styling? No, content. Go to content at the bottom, click on animation, and you get some nice groovy animations down here. Currently we are looking at fade. But for this one, Hazel, I would say you either use push, like this. Ah, nice. Okay, it's just... And then scale, or pull. Well, we are in the view now for the page builder, so you will sometimes see it jump a little bit around. But if we go and we preview it, you will notice that things work very nicely on the front end. Good. A few more things, and let's go back to layout. Let's go into default again, and let's just reduce again that size to get rid of those gray borders. I want to show you another animation effect for this one. So go back to our post slider, and then animation, and then let's say we leave it on pull. So currently it will display like this, but it allows you to add a Ken Burns animation as well on top of it. So once I activate it, this image will begin to zoom out. Oh, look at the puppy. Yes, look at that. This is highly interactive with a very nice Ken Burns effect for you guys that are crazy about sliders. All in all, this is how this widget works. I like it. It works well. Everything in here I've tested, and it seems to work very well. Just remember of the restrictions. Only 4 posts. You can query them, and you can decide whether it's by date, title, menu, or order, or whether you want to display the first by ascending your first and oldest post or your latest 4 posts. The other thing that you also have to take cognizance of is that if your images are smaller than this display that you have here on the front end, they will not look good. So I have these guys. Let me just exit here and go back to my all posts. For these guys here at the bottom, let's say like the golden retriever, you will see that for the featured image on this golden retriever, it's only 360 at 360. So if I go back to my post slider and I say ascending, which will mean my oldest posts first, it will look like this. And you have to bring in your images at a decent size for what you think the slider will look like. And you will have to bring them also in, I would recommend, in a ratio at which you would want it to be displayed. So if you want it to be at a 1:1, bring them in a square. If you want to bring them in at 16:9, do that post before you bring them into Elementor's media library. This is JP with Websites for Beginners, and if you want to know more about the Element Pack Pro add-on from BD Themes for Elementor, please follow the link in the description below.